you have a practice or are you running a business? Valuation is the ultimate KPI.
Hey there, it's Mike Langford. Welcome to another episode of the Modern Financial Advisor Podcast, brought to you by Truelytics, the one and only comprehensive advisor transition management platform. This week on the show, I have Kevin Darlington of Broadridge Advisor Solutions and Jeremiah Desmarais of Advisorist. The Broadridge and Advisorist teams are hosting the second annual Virtual Advisor Summit on February 10th. And a few weeks ago, Jim Walsh from Broadridge reached out to me saying that he had been listening to the Modern Financial Advisor podcast, and he wondered if we might be willing to participate in the event. Well, obviously, the answer was yes. The event sounds fantastic. If you want to register, simply go to virtualfasummit.com. And as you might imagine, I thought it might be a great idea to have Kevin and Jeremiah on this show to talk about the event and some trends they are seeing for advisors in 2021 and beyond. Before we dive in, make sure you swing by Truelytics.com to check out the latest updates to the platform. Whether you are a solo advisor operating in an RIA structure or under the umbrella of an independent broker-dealer or running a large firm, you'll want to get a feel for how the new Revenue Stability Scorecard can help you grow your business and better prepare your business for any M&A activity or succession planning you may have for the future. If you have any questions, simply click that little chat icon down in the lower right-hand corner of the screen or give the team a ring at 1-800-834-7494 or shoot an email to info@truelytics.com and someone from the team will get right back to you. Okay, let's get to it with Kevin and Jeremiah. Well, Jeremiah, Kevin, so wonderful to have you guys here. I'm really thrilled to have you on the show, and I'm looking forward to this big event, this virtual financial advisor summit that you two of you are doing together and your teams are doing, and I get to participate in, and we'll get to that in a little bit. But welcome to the Modern Financial Advisor Podcast.
Great to be here. Thanks so much, Mike.
Yeah, absolutely. Really happy to do this. We're looking forward to it.
Yeah, it's going to be fantastic. I'm really looking forward to it. And I'm going to, probably nerd out on you guys here a little bit, but I'm going to make you guys do most of the nerding for our audience. So I think a good place to start is for those people who are unfamiliar with Broadridge Advisor Solutions and Advisorist, right? Both of you kind of aim to do the same thing. You aim to help advisors grow their business, right? But you're doing it with a different approach. So if we could maybe get each of you to kind of describe what it is that you do in kind of elevator pitch style for the audience so they can understand what is Broadridge Advisor Solutions and what is Advisorist. We'll start with you, Kevin.
Sure. Yeah. So you're right. I think we do share a mission, Advisorist and Broadridge Advisor Solutions. I think at Broadridge Advisor Solutions, we have a few hundred people that get up every day and really are trying to think about how to help advisors grow their businesses measurably and compliantly. So in a lot of businesses, if I think about what financial advisors do is regardless of what firm they're affiliated with, if they're an RIA or if they're an independent broker dealer, if they're part of a wirehouse, they're really in a lot of ways they are like small business owners. And so how any small business owner grows their business while taking care of their business and their clients, I mean, that's a challenge. But in a regulated industry like wealth management, it's an even taller order. So we help them we create hopefully really compelling, engaging, needs-based content for them to use to engage their prospects and clients. So we're really, first and foremost, we help with creating of that content. And then we also have a SaaS platform that enables advisors to then take that content and our software tools and really mix it together in ways that allow them to have a really established digital presence. So could be creating a website. It could be driving leads to those websites. It could be converting and nurturing those leads by sending email nurturing. But that content is kind of the gas that powers all of that. So yeah, we do that for about 75,000 plus advisors from all walks of the industry. And it's something we love to do and can't get enough of it.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic. I love it. I love the fact that you teed this up, that advisors are oftentimes small business owners, even the biggest ones, or even the biggest multi-advisor shop that might have 20 advisors under the roof. That's still a small business, right? From an employee footprint, and even on the revenue side, right? You may be managing a couple of $1 billion of AUM, but that's producing millions and millions of dollars of revenue. But in the scale of businesses in the world, that's a small business. Let's shift over to you, Jeremiah. Maybe you could tell us a little bit. I was fascinated. You and I met for the very first time yesterday. It was the first time I actually got to dig into Advisorist. So I'm stoked to hear a little bit what you're doing, because near and dear to my heart, some of the stuff you're doing. I love it.
Thank you. Well, it's awesome because Advisorist picks up where Broadridge passes the baton. Broadridge has done such an amazing job to help advisors come into the digital world. And our passion is teaching, coaching, and training advisors how to grow their practices, also in a compliant way. So think of us like masterclass for advisors. And our mission is to double the business of 10,000 advisors. We do that through an online library of self-paced content. We have private group mentorship, and also a SaaS platform that helps to automate in a compliant way LinkedIn prospecting, as well as something brand new that we're going to be launching at the summit. And our passion is results. We like to say we have a PhD in results because we've helped over 100,000 advisors in 51 countries fill their calendars with qualified appointments. And that's what we love to do. And our roots are digital. So we love to teach people, even who are, really new to technology or new to social media or new to even simple things like what to put in an email, how to successfully take the next step in a simple, compliant, step-by-step way.
And that's the thing that really just jumped out at me, that made me just kind of big smile. And I told you a little bit about my background, that I've been in this space for a long time, kind of evangelizing the use of digital marketing and particularly social media for advisors. And to hear that you're kind of doing a little bit of a hand-holding approach, like coming down to like not making an assumption that everybody's comfortable with the technology or knows marketing, right? And I think that's a really important thing for this space, because most advisors, and people who listen to this podcast regularly are probably sick of hearing me say this, but most advisors got their start in this business when they were still called stockbrokers, right? They came in and they were sales guys and sales ladies. Nothing wrong with that whatsoever, right? But they weren't marketing people, right? They weren't trained business people. You'd be surprised at how many financial advisors do not have a business degree. You'd actually be really surprised how many of them didn't study business in college. And that's not a negative comment. It's just like, hey, look, we can't assume that they know how to do all these things, that they are marketing experts, that they know how to do social media marketing, that they're good at writing quality content. It's not a good assumption, right? So there's going to need to be some training and some handholding. And there's going to need to be somebody else who maybe creates really high quality content and has a technology that makes it really easy to distribute that content. So I'm really excited to have you guys here to push that out there. I think you guys are doing great stuff. Let's jump into what has put us together, and that is the second annual Virtual Financial Advisors Summit coming up on February 10th. So if you're watching or listening to this podcast before February 10th, you came just in the right time. And if you're watching after, it's okay. All good stuff. We'll find a way to get you some content. Anyway, what makes this event special, and what made you guys decide to put it together? How did it come about?
Yeah, I mean, I'll jump in on that. Jeremiah and I think we're almost a year ago, actually a little under a year ago. He and I were talking when really all of the pandemic was starting to shift into a gear where you knew, wow, this is really getting very serious. This is going to have a major impact. I think he had just gotten, like I'd seen him up actually in the Boston area. We were getting a bite to eat together, and he had just been traveling somewhere. And I think, Jeremiah, am I right to say that was the last time you were on a plane?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I want to say it was around March. And, we started to talk a little bit, and Jeremiah really, he was the brains behind this. He was the idea and the inspiration behind it. kind of pointing out that, wow, this is going to be a pretty tough season here. Spring of last year is going to be pretty challenging, because this is normally the time when advisors are out there, when they're getting to really collaborate and talk and learn from their peers at events. So this is sort of that April, May, June timeframe is when a lot of that really goes on in our industry. And he said, it's going to really be tough because none of that's going to happen this year. And he said, what if we tried to step into the void, right? What if we tried to put something together to pull advisors together and talk about how are they reacting in trying to work through what was then still the kind of nascent stages of the pandemic, and really make that shift to virtual. And I said, gee, that's compelling. I mean, and I first had to get over like the shock of how quickly he wanted to try to pull it together, because I said, well, when would you want to do it? And I think Jeremiah, we ended up pretty much doing all of it in 6 to 8 weeks, like last time. Am I right?
Actually, we did it in 3.
Wow, that's great. That's great.
Yeah,
That's
probably
awesome.
because I was agonizing over it, and I didn't give a firm yes for a while, and then by the time I said, yeah, let's go all in on this, Jeremiah had to put us all on his back and get it done. So I was very optimistic going into it, but I would say coming out of it, I was all of my expectations and were far exceeded with really how well it came together and what I think advisors felt they got out of it.
And so is this only been virtual? Had you done an in-person event before this, or was this like last year? Was it like, you know what, we're going to create an event specifically for virtual? This is the first time you guys did it?
Yeah, it's precisely that. Our vision was to create the virtual financial advisor summit. We had not collaborated on a live event before. Independently, Advisorist and Broadridge obviously have done our own live events, but I saw a real opportunity here to serve the industry in a big way, because we're boots on the ground. We're highly in touch with all of our clients, and we saw them start to really struggle. Webinars, seminars were gone, face-to-face prospecting gone. And we've been teaching ever since my #1 best-selling book hit Amazon Shift. I've been beating the drum of there's another way you can be meeting people. There's another way you can be filling up your calendar. And Broadridge has been doing that for years with compelling content, leading edge websites, how to get found locally and socially. So we've been preaching this for years, but what happened is the whole space got forced into it, whether you were ready or not, in the space of a month, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And so we said, we got to come together. Why don't Broadridge and Advisorist and the amount of data both companies have access to is incredible. Like, how would you like to know how consumers are interacting with 40,000 financial advisor websites? Don't you think that data would help us make better decisions? And how would you like to know the email scripts, the templates, the Facebook ad templates that are working, that have already been working, that will work even better now in the middle of a pandemic? And let's put it all together and do what we like to call all killer, no filler content. So what's really different about this summit is that we don't do hype fests. We don't do ethereal ivory tower theories for a whole day and leave people feeling like, well, I think I got what I got to do. We had 26 pages of testimonials, tweets, videos, Facebook posts that advisors put during the summit and emailed us after saying that they could not believe the amount of value they got for free. And by the way, I think we should say, Mike, that we don't charge a dime for this. Broadridge and Advisorist underwrite the entire event. It is absolutely free, and you can get your ticket at virtualfasummit.com. And it's all about growth. So we're going to talk everything from what's working. We've got, Kevin, I'll let you share about Facebook, but I think that's so amazing. We've lined up advisors that are already selling virtual, that have already been selling in a virtual world, and are going to come and share their secrets to success. Everything from YouTube, podcasting, email marketing, LinkedIn marketing, referral-based marketing, webinars. From like what you should put on your LinkedIn profile to the best ads that are converting to the emails that get people to say, yes, I want to meet with you. And then we've got a lot of strategic conversations that happen so it can help direct the tactics. And I'll let Kevin talk about some of the incredible talent that he's brought to the table too.
I think that the balance, I think, that Jeremiah is talking about of giving advisors really tactical, immediate, practical tips that they can implement right away, and then some bigger concepts that they can implement over time. I think we almost have, if you thought about this as a 6 to 9 course meal, we've sort of, in our agenda, we've really parsed it out in a way where those different sessions are almost stacked one after the next, sort of like here's a real practical session, things you can walk away and test out today. And here are some sort of bigger strategic concepts. So, I think that we struck a really nice balance of that last year. And Jeremiah talked about it, right? It's very easy to get caught in the trap of assuming that, you're delivering value because you feel like, well, this is great information. We're trying to make it practical and we're trying to make it all about advisor growth. But when we were finished last year, I think the testimonials that he talked about and how advisors talked about what they were able to implement and coming back and looking at how it helped them grow their businesses, that's pretty gratifying. I think it was particularly gratifying to see advisors talk about how much of a catalyst for growth this event became for them last year. That's really what it's all about.
It's interesting too. I titled this topic that I want to talk about, and you guys have just laid this one up for me. Virtual becomes habitual, right? We've seen that because of the pandemic, as you mentioned, people were forced to go virtual, and many advisors have built their business with the lunch and learn, right? The seminars business over the years, meeting people one-on-one across the table or across the boardroom table. And for that to be dramatically taken away, to just become no longer a possibility, forced many advisors to really rethink their business. And we've had some people on the show talking about advisors are abandoning their office. They're like, why would I spend $3,000-$4,000 a month on an office if I'm working from home and my clients are comfortable with it and they're comfortable with this type of conversation on Zoom? They don't care. As an example, for those who are listening audio and you can't see this, Kevin has a home gym in his background. 5 years ago, if I had told an advisor it's okay to have your home gym in your background, many of them would have flipped out. There's just no way. I cannot allow myself to be that vulnerable. I can't show that I'm I have anything messy or whatever, or just something different, right? They wanted to always present buttoned up, and they would never let you into their personal life. And now it's like, yeah, we're all comfortable. We get it. You have a house. Your house might have a different setup than my house, and it's okay. We're looking at each other, and I'm perfectly comfortable doing business with you virtually. And frankly, I prefer it.
I mean, to piggyback on that, what we'll talk about in the event is driven by primary research. And so Broadridge, we invest a lot in trying to understand what investors want, understand what advisors want. So there were studies that we did about how much of a shift to video and virtual was for investor preferences. And so we have statistics about how many investors were video chatting for the first time, and this is earlier this year, with their advisor, and now choose that and prefer that as a means of communication. But I saw actually a third party, I think Ipsos, put something out about how many people in the United States used video chat for the first time this year. And it's massive, massive numbers, right? I mean, and I know personally people in a lot of demographics that I might have thought, well, they're probably not in the center of the bullseye for a demographic that's going to really want to embrace video chat technology. And right, all of that just sort of went out the window, right? Yeah. It was like everyone in almost every walk of life said, well, there's not really good alternatives, so it's time to jump on in that pool.
Yeah. And look, it's not perfect, but it works, right? It's better than not seeing the person face to face. I mean, it really helps. And it's one of the things that's been interesting to me is seeing how it's suddenly changing advisors' perception of where their clients need to be, where they need to live. And if they're in the process of thinking of M&A activity, like acquiring another advisor's business or selling their business, suddenly the pool of potential suitors is much, much bigger, right? They don't have to be in your backyard. And I have a feeling we're going to talk about that on the podcast that we're going to do, especially for the virtual financial advisor summit on advisor transitions and succession planning and so forth.
One of the sessions specifically is called 7-Figure Silicon Valley Clients from the Heart of the Midwest. We're going to be interviewing an advisor who's actually built a book of business in Silicon Valley, even though he's in the heart of the Midwest and he's never been there.
That's
and
awesome.
You're going to hear exactly how he did it. So absolutely.
You know, and I don't want to ruin the surprise on that, but I'm just like nerding out on it a little bit, thinking about this, and I can see how that would make sense, right? Think about, there are people who live in Silicon Valley who are from the Midwest, right? Or went to the same college as you. So if you're thinking about niche marketing, right? I went to Boston University. I would have a much easier time starting a conversation and getting in front of somebody who went to BU, just like I did. And I suppose that's true for a lot of other colleges. And if we're from the same place, I love meeting people who are from the Boston area here in Austin, Texas, because it's like, oh, you're from the old country. No way, this is great. So obviously we think video chat is absolutely going to stick, right? After the pandemic. People are not going to go back to never doing this FaceTime. Yes, they'll be excited to have one-on-ones again and to be in person again, but I don't think this is going anywhere for our space. What other trends that may have evolved during this time do you expect to stick beyond this year?
Yeah, well, you touched on one of them that I think you were kind of instinctively saying about the fact that any kind of geographic proximity is probably less of a factor. You know, certainly our research says advisors are keen on kind of on really expanding where they market. And so one of our stats was that 3 out of 10 advisors are already starting to do that. And 9 out of 10 advisors believe that consumers are much more open to a non-local advisor. So I think that starts to redraw a lot of lines in the industry. So you've got some regional players who might need to rethink how much of a moat they have just by being the dominant player in that region. You've got some players who probably are technically a little bit better and further along the curve to be able to start to think less in a geographically inhibited way. So I think that's a big one. I think another thing that we hear a little bit more anecdotally is, and I think this is something that if you're a smart advisor, you're using the opportunity. We all know, right, the huge shift in terms of money flowing into the next generation, the kind of the big generational wealth transfer. What I'm seeing and hearing more of is advisors, now that they're essentially having a meeting inside the client's home virtually, they're trying to use that as an opportunity to get to know the family a little bit more. Right. And we see a lot of advisors who will just flat out say, yeah, I'm not doing enough to establish a relationship with the next generation. And I think what we're seeing is, and this is not much in terms of clever marketing, it's really just being a little bit more situationally aware. Advisors that are now having a meeting with a client in their kitchen, so to speak, because of the virtual factor, that's a great opportunity to get to know the spouse, to get to know the children, to get to know the grandchildren a little bit more. And I can go on and there's more, but I think that's something that if advisors are not seeing that that's a really good, authentic opportunity, that's a little bit of like kind of, you got to tune into that one a little bit more.
I think that's really, really smart. And I personally had not thought of that. I think that's just a brilliant idea to say, hey, look, we're going to be jumping on Zoom. We're going to talk about some financial plans. Why don't you invite the kids over? Or I'd like to make sure that we talk to them because I think there's some important things relevant to your financial plan that may impact them in the future, right? You can have that conversation. And, as somebody who has a 16-year-old who'll be an adult in a couple of years and a 12-year-old, within 10 years, I mean, those conversations are important, right? I might want to have my advisor talking to my teenage kids or the adult children about the plan and then cluing them in on some of the things that are happening in my life. So Kevin had to jump for a family endeavor, which, very fitting based on where we left off there. But the two of us have a little more time together, Jeremiah. And I wanted to get your thoughts on what you think might stick after this pandemic as well? I mean, you're seeing, as you mentioned, helping 10,000 advisors. What are some of the things that you've seen over the last year where you're like, yeah, that one's going to stick?
For sure, it's the joy and the time freedom that comes when you have an automated, we call them appointment engines
Mm.
in our vernacular, in our tribe of Advisorist, appointment engines. And that could look like a YouTube funnel, it could look like a LinkedIn funnel, it could look like a Facebook funnel, it could be a podcasting funnel. And there's many different ways to do it, but what's not going to go away is when people realize they don't have to travel
Mm.
and they don't have to go to networking meetings and you really don't have to do seminars anymore.
Mm.
And you could just choose to have 3 to 5 people booking on your calendar a week, a month, or even a day, like some of our clients have, and just have that happen without you going anywhere. And you can have a laptop and be anywhere in the world and close business. That is going to just accelerate. And we're already teaching advisors how to build those engines. So when it's free to travel and it's safe to travel, they can be anywhere around the world and flip open their laptop and be able to conduct business, close it, and then enjoy being somewhere else. And that's really true lifestyle, because the desire to have lifestyle will never go away. And that's really what we're all in this business for, not to accumulate AUM, not to get lots of appointments. We're here for lifestyle. We can write our own ticket. We can create our own schedules. We can serve who we want to serve. We can have a mission to be part of something bigger. And that's really why we do what we do at the end of the day. So the quest for lifestyle will never disappear.
First of all, I agree 1,000%. I love that, you talked about how there's an awakening for advisors realizing that they can use their website and the technology that's available to them to not just be a brochure or to be some validation that, hey, I am actually an advisor. You can go check me out on my website. You can check me out on LinkedIn. It's like, no. This can actually bring you business. You can actually use scheduling tools to set up a meeting, and then you can have that meeting via face-to-face like this on a screen. It's opening up new avenues. And there's some other benefits to this. And I'm sure you cover this with your clients. You can qualify the prospect, right? You can make sure you can have them answer a couple of questions before they actually get some of your time. So you're wasting less time sitting across the table or the virtual table with somebody who doesn't have the money to invest with you and so forth. So there's just so many benefits. And it's really interesting that I'm glad you mentioned that you are seeing an embrace of that new approach.
Yeah. And I want to just share it with everybody. We have an amazing couple that before the pandemic, they're going to be at the summit. So you can come and listen to their story. This couple was really struggling. I mean, ramen noodles struggling. And they were in their early 30s, just getting into the business. They were doing the business part-time, running from one networking meeting to the next, trying to do seminars. It wasn't working at all. Then they turned to this one medium, which I'll keep as a little secret. But
you got to attend the event, right? You got to attend the event.
Come to the event and you'll see exactly what they did. They built this very simple formula to get people to pre-qualify themselves, and they would have to prove that they should make it onto their calendar. And you know what, Mike? Do you know how many people they meet on a monthly basis that are their exact target, that have filled an entire 32-question application, and they've permitted to get an appointment? 56 a month.
In a month. Wow.
Every single month. In fact, they are now booked out 3 months in advance, and they're trying to bring on another advisor to help them handle the volume, because now people are upset. They're like, wait a minute, I wanted to meet you sooner so I can give you my money.
That's
and
amazing.
That was all done running on a $500 a month business plan, which they're gonna reveal during the summit. I'm also, I have to round the bases here because I have another call to jump to, but I did want to give some value to the audience.
Sure, let's do it.
I love your question here, Mike, about key takeaways, right? What would be some takeaways we can give to people? So here's a simple one to do. You may want to grab a pen for this. It's a simple email. But if you've got, this one has just worked wonders. I get love letters and texts and emails and LinkedIn posts about this practically every week. It's generated millions of dollars of AUM. If you've got a database of people that have known what you do, they came to a seminar, webinar, networking event, or they even ghosted you, you can take that database, could be 5, could be 500, put it into MailChimp, Redtail, whatever your CRM is. The subject line, put quick question in lowercase, because psychologically that'll make them think it's more human. And then in the email, all you write is their first name, like John. And then, do you still need help with your retirement plan, your financial plan, your life insurance, infinite banking, whatever it is that you offer? It's the one-line email. After that, you just say your name and whatever your standard signature line is, nothing else, and just send that out to some people who have ghosted you, or some people that came through your process and then you never followed up or they never followed up, and shake the tree. That's a very simple email script that works. And then the other thing that I would suggest is start connecting every day with 50 desirable prospects on LinkedIn. I'm talking business owners. HR directors are great because they're hyper connectors. You could also approach HR directors and offer to do complimentary wealth training, money training, retirement training, anything along those lines to their entire company free of charge. We had one advisor in one of our programs do that. And in a 3-month window, he got in front of 32 business owners using one of our techniques that we teach, and brought in $450,000 in commissions, not AUM,
Wow.
commissions in 3 months. So I would recommend get out there, start targeting with your ideal prospects, and then just try to get on virtual coffees with people. Don't ask for a meeting, just do 15 minutes. Be a networker, be a power connector, be somebody that serves your community, and you'd be amazed at what happens.
I love that advice. I love that advice. And it is so true. I mean, everybody's had the no, or they've had like you said, the person who's ghosted them. And I learned this a long time ago. Most no's are not a no forever, right? They're a no for whatever was going on in that person's life at the time, right? They were too busy. They going through some challenges at home. Who knows what it is? But just reaching out real quick and see what's going on. Those are a couple of solid pieces of advice. And I also really love the LinkedIn one, like be a little more purposeful with who you're connecting with on LinkedIn. I love it. I love it. Well, I know you got to jump. I'm really looking forward to producing the special episode of the Modern Financial Advisor podcast for the second annual Virtual Financial Advisor Summit. This is going to be great. I'm thrilled. We're going to have Jeremy Carnell, the CEO of Truelytics, on with me, and also Scott Wetzel, the CEO of Skyview Partners, on. And we're going to be really digging in on advisor transitions, M&A, and succession planning stuff. So you don't want to miss that. February 10th, 2021. Thank you very much, Jeremiah. I will be seeing you next week.
That's it. Thanks, brother. Appreciate it. And everybody listening, we'd be so grateful to have you. We want to share everything we've learned. Grab yourself a free ticket, virtualfasummit.com. We'd love to see you there. Thanks so much.
Perfect. Thanks, buddy. See ya.
Bye.
Thank you very much for listening to this episode of the Modern Financial Advisor podcast. It's always great to have you with us. Huge thanks to Kevin Darlington from Broadridge Advisor Solutions and Jeremiah Desmarais of Advisorist for joining us as well. I'm thrilled about the event they are putting together. Can't wait to check out all the great content. Hope you can make it. If you haven't done so already, please make sure you subscribe to this show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, SoundCloud, YouTube, or wherever you like to get your podcast jam on, and share it with a friend or a colleague. As you heard in last week's episode with the team from Elevate CPA Group, they heard an episode of the show and it has transformed their business. That's right. They use Truelytics as a core component of their business, and it's making their life a lot easier than the spreadsheet they were using before to do some of the calculations. So make sure you share this show with a friend. As always, if you have questions or suggestions for topics or guests for the show, please shoot us a note at podcast@truelytics.com or hit us up on LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube's, wherever you like to hang out. We're there to listen to you. Okay. Lastly, make sure you are wearing your mask, keeping your distance, and be nice to each other. Okay. We'll see you next time on the Modern Financial Advisor podcast. See ya. Bye.